Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living's meditation this morning. I'm going to start with a reading from Mark Nepo from his Book of Awakenings. And then we will have a music-guided meditation to deepen the thoughts that we'll experience through this reading. The title of this is called The Pain of Becoming. For the flower, it is fully open at each step of its blossoming. We do ourselves a great disservice by judging where we are in comparison to some final destination. This is one of the pains of aspiring to become something. The stage of development we are in is always seen against the imagined landscape of what we are striving for. So where we are, though closer all the time, is never quite enough. The simple rose, at each moment of its slow blossoming, is as open as it can be. The same is true of our lives. In each stage of our unfolding, we are as stretched as possible. For the human heart is quite slow to blossom and is only seen as lacking when compared to the imagined lover or father or mother we'd like to become. It helps to see ourselves as flowers. If a flower were to push itself to open faster, which it can't, it would tear. Yet we humans can and often do push ourselves. Often we tear in places no one can see. When we push ourselves to unfold faster or more deeply than is natural, we thwart ourselves. For nature takes time, and most of our problems of will stem from impatience. Before my experience with cancer, I was sorely driven as an artist. I pushed myself greatly. I think the creative impulse was deep and irrepressible in me, and ultimately healthy, but it was my secret need to achieve some sort of greatness that made me press until something began to rip. It was the unending, relentless push to measure up, and quickly, against some imagined form of myself that made the flower of my mind tear. I do not believe that people bring cancer on themselves, but I do believe that wherever we weaken ourselves, that part will give way to illness first. It was not by accident that the cancer struck the creative side of my brain. Perhaps one of the hardest remedies to accept for our pain of becoming is that wherever we are in our path, no matter how flawed or incomplete, is a blossoming unto itself. However much we've done at the end of the day is more than enough. It is dream becoming truth. So I invite you to continue with closed eyes and meditate on a simple yellow rose that is budding. Breathe fully. So as we begin to bring our consciousness back into the room, back into the density of our earthly bodies, maintain a steady breath, outer eyes closed, and we'll close with a prayer. I recognize that there is one love, one spirit, one divine and holy presence that has its being in, as, and through all living things. That this divine intelligence I call God is the very essence of what blooms me. Through breath, heartbeat, conscious thought, I am God's idea of love. And as I know this to be the truth of divine spirit in me, I know it's also true for each and every being everywhere, that there's simply no place where God hides, always available, always present, as close and as intimate as our very breath. I realize in this moment now that my becoming, my unique and individualized bloom of life is exquisite in its unfolding, that there are no two blooms alike in the universe, and each and every one of us are blooming gods, petal by petal. I know that human elements of hardship, perceived drought, floods that tempt to wash away, too much heat, not enough, all are elements that shape the bloom, shape growth, not taking away an ounce of perfection of the holiness within. The bloom is an inside job, the blossom merely an effect. I allow myself to bloom. I allow divine spirit to grow me into the fullness of its love. I'm so grateful for the knowing of the truth of my being, so grateful for the simple yet profound idea, the enormous exchange of God's presence in every moment of life. So grateful for the awareness of each petal as it unfolds into the I am. It is with deep gratitude and thankfulness, with blooming expectancy, that I release my word into a spiritual law that only says yes. I let it be so, and so it is. Thank you. We will be back at 10:45, and we look forward to seeing you all there for our service this morning in celebration. Thank you.
anything less than beautiful. How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Thank you so very much, Cindi Johnson. I love seeing all those images of our community. What a good-looking community we have, and I can't wait to be standing in the same room and looking at you live and in person. Coming soon. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. For those of you that might not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the honor and the privilege of being the senior minister of this amazing community. We are part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living, and we believe that there is one power and presence in the universe, one power and presence that created everything that we see and everything that we cannot see. It created each and every single one of us in its image and likeness. Not the image and likeness of a old white guy sitting on a cloud someplace with a long dark beard, but an energy, a benevolent, loving energy that is everywhere at all times in its fullness and in its wholeness, always ready, willing, and able to support us and guide us, guard us, fuel us, fund us, and absolutely, unconditionally love us. We are a powerful spiritual community, lovingly committed to a world of acceptance, compassion, peace, and joy. We gather together to express love, to celebrate life, to grow spiritually, to practice radical acceptance and inclusion, and to connect with one another. What we are really about is providing a supportive community where we can explore our own spiritual path and connect to the divinity and wisdom within us. We welcome all of you that have been attending our services, our classes, and our special events, and we welcome all of you that are visiting us for the very first time. We see all of you. We know who you really are. We appreciate you, and we celebrate you. We are so very grateful that you have chosen to include us in your morning. Thank you so very much. Speaking of gratitude, my gratitude and appreciation goes out to Michelle Love, one of our licensed spiritual practitioners who facilitated a beautiful meditation to set the stage for our service to unfold within. Thank you so very much, Michelle. It is now my pleasure to welcome another one of our licensed spiritual practitioners, Barbara Cain. Welcome, Babs.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Dusty. Our theme for the month of June is the Soul's Call. Our talk title for today is The Soul's Call to Freedom. Holding vigil for us today, which means staying in a meditative space throughout the service and holding the space for us to have a transformative experience, is one of our licensed spiritual practitioners, Michelle Love, the one who just did that beautiful meditation for us. And I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And now Janelle and Heather, two more of our licensed spiritual practitioners, will assist by presenting the ceremony about the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths. Please welcome them.
The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Christianity is the path of the Christ consciousness, of love and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, one's highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practices and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principles of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart and the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with absolutely no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths.
I now invite you to join Cindi Johnson as she sings our opening congregational song.
But I always left it up to someone else to do. Then I finally realized I needed to take a stand, and that by changing my thinking, I could change my life. That's how I could change the world. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now.
Thank you, Cindi, for that most beautiful song. And we indeed are making a new world now. And in this moment, I invite everyone to join me by closing their eyes. Sorry about the dog in the background. Closing their eyes as I speak a blessing. I'm thankful and grateful for the magnificence of this beautiful day, this day that God created, that magnificence of spirit, of love, of beauty, creativity, abundance that is in, as, and through each and every one of us here at the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. And I especially speak a blessing on today's service and the volunteers who helped create it. Mark, who's the producer of this morning's broadcast, Cindi Johnson, with her amazing gift of song and music, Reverend Dusty Rippelmeyer, our anchor and inspiration in every moment, and you, the congregation, for we are all magnificent creations of the one love, the one law. And I know that each and every person and Michelle Love, who is holding the space for us today and who did that most beautiful meditation. And so I recognize that we are all connected in love and in joy, and this day moves forward in joy and thanksgiving, and so it is. And today's reading is by Osho in his book, Freedom, the Courage to Be Yourself. There are many kinds of freedom, social, political, economic, but they are only superficial. True freedom has a totally different dimension to it. It is not concerned with the outside world at all. It arises within you. It is freedom from all kinds of conditioning, religious ideologies, political philosophies. All that has been imposed on you by others fetters you, chains you, imprisons you, makes you spiritually a slave. Meditation is nothing but the destruction of all these fetters and conditionings, the destruction of the whole prison, so that you can again be free under the sky and the stars, out in the open, available to existence. The moment you are available to existence, existence is available to you. And the meeting of those two availabilities is ultimate bliss. But it can happen only in freedom. Freedom is the highest value. There is nothing higher. And now I have the opportunity to introduce once again our wonderful, beautiful, talented singer, songwriter, musician, Cindi Johnson. Thank you so much for your beautiful gift of song today, Cindi.
Thank you, beautiful, loving Barbara Cain. We appreciate you, Babs.
Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I world. I will never be alone. I surrender to my heart. I allow myself to feel. I am open to the world. I have never been without. All I need is in me now. I allow my eyes to see the great reality. That I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, God, for showing up as Cindy today. That was absolutely beautiful. Perfect song for today's message. Thank you, Cindy. Speaking of today's message, it is called, in case you're just now tuning in, The Soul's Call to Freedom. And that all-knowing source of intelligence and wisdom, Wikipedia, says that freedom is, number one, being free or at liberty rather than in confinement or under physical restraint. Number two, exemption from control, interference, and regulation. Number three, personal liberty as opposed to bondage or slavery. Number four, political or national independence. Number five, the power to determine action without restraint. And number six, the condition or right of being able or allowed to do, say, think, and believe whatever we want to do, say, think, and believe without being controlled or limited. This includes freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of choice. Freedom is really at its foundation a three-dimensional phenomenon. The first dimension is physical. Physical freedom is literally to be free to move about, to do things, to act on the physical plane without hindrance or physical restraint. Being physically free in life means to be free in any situation to take action or not. To be able to have the choice of what to put into our bodies or not. To live where we want to live or to work where we want to work, for example. Now, the oversight in this is that if someone's actions infringe on another person's personal physical freedom, then there is a cost or a consequence to that. This speaks to our being responsible for our actions and being accountable for them as is necessary to be able to live in community. However, people can and have been enslaved physically. Our history is filled with people who lost their physical freedom, who lost their ability to choose the life that they wanted to choose because of slavery or human trafficking or oppression, for example. For thousands of years, people have been bought and sold in the marketplace just like cattle or any other commodity. They were not really accepted as human beings, and they were not given basic human rights. To this day, there are many people all over the world who are still being treated as subhuman in some way or another. Physical freedom means that our body is not enchained and that it is not categorized as lower or less than anybody else's body. It means that there is equality as far as our bodies are concerned. Freedom of the body means that there is no distinction between black and white, no distinction between man and women. There's no distinction of any kind as far as the physical body is concerned. No body is pure, no body is impure. All bodies are essentially equal. Then there's the second dimension, the psychological dimension. Now, psychological freedom includes both mental and emotional freedom. My guess is that we all can think of a time when we got stuck in some negative thoughts that came up for us during a particularly troublesome or challenging or difficult time in our lives. Now, we might have hung on to those negative thoughts. And because we thought about them over and over and over again, we thought about them long enough and hard enough that they actually became beliefs. These beliefs then became a state of mind and eventually part of our personality. Because of that, we are now a slave to rigid thinking, and we are no longer psychologically free. On the other hand, psychological freedom includes the ability to be able to make choices for ourselves, even the ability to choose our thoughts and our beliefs so that in any given moment, we don't have to go down that drain and end up being a slave to our thoughts. If freedom were merely a matter of not being in prison, in a prison cell, then the vast majority of us would truly indeed be free. But we often find ourselves imprisoned by internal anxieties and worries, habits, compulsions, fears, depressions, addictions, and false assumptions. Equally, we could actually imprison someone in a prison cell, and they would be in many ways freer than the people that actually imprisoned them. Take Viktor Frankl, for example. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist whose views were deeply influenced by his real-life experiences in Nazi concentration camps. Now, while he was in the camps, he had little, well, probably actually absolutely no control over his external circumstances, but this drove him to discover a deep sense of self-reliance. It drove him to discover new insights and meaning, which profoundly changed the way that he viewed and the way that he experienced the circumstances and the situations and the ordeal that he found himself within. It was not that the conditions of the camp changed in any way, but that paradoxically, he found freedom in the misery by transcending it, by finding meaning within it, and by actually embracing the opposite emotions, the opposite feeling tone to the hatred and the bitterness that would have been expected of him or of anybody else in this situation. Freedom to Frankl was not an external affair, but an internal affair based on choosing his attitude in any situation that he found himself within. Osho, in his book entitled Freedom, says that there are very few individuals in the world who are actually totally psychologically free. And he says that this is because we have all been conditioned or domesticated, as Miguel Ruiz would call it, during our childhood, during our growing years. He believes that our whole way of bringing up children is to make them slaves of political, social, religious, cultural, or familial ideologies. Well-meaning parents, grandparents, family, extended families, friends, teachers, and others often did not give the children in their lives an opportunity to think on their own or to search on their own. They forced their minds into a certain mold, and they filled their minds with thoughts, ideas, and beliefs. Thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that were more often than not even their own, but actually thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that were given to them. They conditioned their children's minds because they were conditioned by their parents, and their children will then go on and do the same thing to their children. Now, this way, the disease, as Osho calls it, goes on from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. On the flip side, psychological freedom will be possible when children are encouraged and assisted to evolve, encouraged and assisted to become more intelligent, to actually lean into their innate curiosity and to become more and more infinitely inquisitive. When they are allowed to grow, when they are allowed to awaken, to be more conscious, and to really dive deeper into their own inner wisdom. Where there is psychological freedom, no thought or idea or belief will be given to anyone. No one will be pigeonholed into any kind of faith or ideology, but they will be given as much initiative as possible to search for their own truth. The bottom line is that a child, or actually anyone else, is left open, alert, receptive to their own inner wisdom, and given the initiative to search, psychological freedom will be present. Psychological freedom is freedom from attachment, freedom from identifying with anything, actually. It's the ability to choose to detect any kind of external labels that we might have, that somebody else might have given us, or that we might have given us ourselves. If all of our choices are made for us, and we simply blindly go along with them, only giving our attention to those people who say they're taking care of us, then we will be giving away our freedom. Each and every time we do that, we are giving away our freedom. Psychological freedom begins with detaching ourselves from all of the emotions, ideals, definitions, and standards that we learned while we were growing up. Those ideas and standards that were put into our minds as we were growing up. It's all about making choices for ourselves, regardless of what our right now condition happens to be. Regardless of that, we always have that choice. Psychological freedom is the ability to structure our own lives through managing our own emotions and applying our own free will. Giving up our intellectual capacity for curiosity, our intellectual capacity to research or to ask questions or to share our knowledge with others in order to gauge what choices others want us to make, or what choices to make for ourselves, will only end up in catastrophe. When we give our freedom away, it only ends up in catastrophe. Just following along with what others tell us, when others tell us that they have the knowledge and that they know what is right and best for us, and that they're telling us to do the right and perfect thing, has only led to catastrophe. It's only led to suffering and oppression and slavery and the Holocaust. And we only need to look back in our not so distant future to see that. To be truly free is to be aware of having choices and the possibility of being free to act on those choices in a way that will positively serve ourselves and our communities. The third dimension is the ultimate of freedom. Osho described it in the reading that Babs read. This dimension is knowing that we are not the body, knowing that we are not our minds, knowing that we are pure consciousness. This knowledge comes to us through meditation because it dissolves those fetters, it dissolves the body, it dissolves the mind, and ultimately what we are left with is the soul that is there as pure consciousness, the soul that is there as pure awareness. This is spiritual freedom. Osho says freedom is the ultimate experience of life. There is nothing higher than that. And out of freedom, many flowers blossom in you. Love is the flowering of your freedom. Compassion, another flowering of your freedom. All that is valuable in life flowers in the innocent, natural state of your being. Now, what I hear in that quote is that the ultimate experience of life comes out of the innocent, natural state of our being. For me, spiritual freedom is a God quality, something that we arrived on the planet with. It's the presence of God, as Cindi sang earlier, the presence of God as freedom showing up as me, expressing through and as each and every single one of us. Thus, the inherent nature of each and every human being is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. Spiritual freedom is not concerned at all with the outside world. It arises within us. Before I began my spiritual journey, before I found Centers for Spiritual Living and New Thought teachings, I believed that freedom was freedom from something, or the freedom to be able to do something. What I now am really beginning to understand is that freedom from something is not true freedom at all. Freedom from something is dependent on the outside, dependent on the manifest universe. That kind of freedom is not true spiritual freedom because there is a cause to it. There's a cause to it. The thing that we were feeling dependent on is still there in our freedom. Think about it. If we are coming from a place in which we believe that freedom is freedom from something, then the thing that we want freedom from, it has to be there, right? It has to be there, and we have to be obliged to it, or and to get our freedom from it, or we would not experience that freedom at all. So we're obliged to it. And if we're obliged to it, then it still exists within our freedom. And the bottom line is that freedom is our birthright. So does that make any sense at all? Humankind has always tried to be free from things. For some people, this might be the only kind of freedom that they ever attain, freedom from their parents, or freedom from the church of their upbringing, or freedom from cultural oppression, or any other kind of prison that they might find themselves within. However, freedom at most can only take freedom from, that idea of freedom from can at most only take away the handcuffs. But it will never be real freedom. And it will never be total freedom. Freedom from keeps us entrapped in the past. And because of that, freedom from is not really actually very beneficial to us at all. Osho says, unless a man becomes utterly innocent, free from the past, so free that he is not even against the past, remember it, the person who is still against the past is not really free. He still has some grudges, some complaints, and some wounds. It's not total freedom. On a soul level, there is absolutely nothing to free ourselves from. But as human beings living on the planet, on the physical level, we have been conditioned by limiting beliefs and by behavioral patterns that cause us to feel suffocated and that keep us from living the life of freedom that we were created to be, that the life of freedom that we arrived on the planet as, that we were born with, that our soul calls us to return to. True spiritual freedom is not a question of getting freedom from something. Now, perhaps we might start there. It might be a good place to start, to get that experience of being free of those fetters, but it's not the ultimate in freedom. The freedom to do something that we want to do is also not spiritual freedom. Freedom to do something is also dependent on the outside. It's not spiritual freedom that our soul calls for, because it's wanting. It's wanting and desiring to do something. And typically it's a wanting and a desiring to do something, and at the same time being really attached to that, like it has to be that way or the highway. This wanting and this desiring often come out of a feeling of lack and limitation. It comes out of a belief that we are some kind of a particular kind of person if we do the thing, or if we have the thing, or that we're some kind of a person if we don't do it, or we don't have it. That there's something back of that doesn't allow us to truly be free. Osho would say that it arises out of our human mind, and that our human mind is our bondage. He goes on to say, so don't connect freedom with independence. Independence is naturally from something, from somebody. Don't connect freedom with doing things that you want to do, because that is your mind, not you. Wanting to do something, desiring to do something, you are in the bondage of your wanting and your desiring. With the freedom I'm talking about, you simply are in utter silence, serenity, beauty, and bliss. True spiritual freedom then comes out of choiceless awareness, that choiceless awareness that comes to us in a moment of stillness, a moment of meditation. When there is choiceless awareness, the freedom is neither dependent on things or dependent on doing something. That freedom that follows choiceless awareness is the freedom to just be ourselves. To just be ourselves. And the good news is that we are already ourselves. The spiritual freedom that our soul calls for, that freedom that we were born with, therefore, is not dependent on anything else. We arrived on the planet with it. Nobody can give it to us, and nobody can take it away from us. Spiritual freedom is present and available to each and every single one of us when we are centered, when we are rooted and grounded in our natural, essential self, that self with a capital S. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with outside things. We all want freedom, but we're not always so sure about what it is or how to attain it. True freedom is essentially a state of mind. It's not a physical condition. It's all about our consciousness. Ernest Holmes says, as the inner light dawns, it delivers the outer life from bondage. This is in line with the teaching that everything is from within out. When the soul knows freedom, the law will free the body, and the outer life will express health, happiness, and success. All things work for our good, right? All things from the inside out. Freedom is our natural birthright. But when we do things that go against our nature, our true nature, who we are authentically, then we limit our capacity to feel freedom. And we end up feeling stuck and stagnant and unhappy instead. So the invitation this morning is for each of us to be our authentic selves. And it's truly an important message here as we are really winding up Pride Month. It's an invitation for us to be our authentic self and to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the world will adapt. Do you hear that? The world will adapt when we are our authentic selves. All that we have to do is to look back in history to see that that is true. For example, in the Netflix documentary called Disclosure, transgender and non-binary people discuss what it was like growing up, seeing so few images of themselves in the media, or images of people that were, like the people who represented themselves. The few transgender actors received, the few roles that they achieved were often for prostitutes or for psychopaths or characters that were hiding their biological gender identity and not really being their true selves. Today, however, transgender people have more visibility, more acceptance, and more freedom than they have ever had before in time. Though there still is a lot of progress to be made, the universe has shifted. The universe has shifted to correspond with the community's demand to express themselves authentically. They have demanded it, and the world has shifted. We are today collectively experiencing the normalization and the expansion of our definitions of gender and of our definitions of sexuality. Authentically, we are an embodiment of the divine, imbued with the very presence of freedom itself. We are already free. If we are authentic and we put ourselves out there in that freedom, the world will shift. Osho says, I say unto you that not a single person is born in the world who has not a certain capacity which will make him proud, who is not pregnant with something to produce, to give birth to something new and beautiful, to make the existence richer. There is not a single person who has come into the world empty. We weren't born to fit in, as Lady Gaga sings. We were not born to fit in. We were born to stand out. Regardless of what anyone says, our unique gifts and talents have a purpose. They are significant to the whole. It is our responsibility to be ourselves while at the same time showing unconditional love and acceptance to others who are also expressing their unique selves. We are what the world has been waiting for. Now is the time to commit to showing up authentically and choosing to live a life of true freedom. The more we choose to live authentically, the more we inspire others to do the same. When we show unconditional love and acceptance to others, we are serving by example. We are being that which we want to see in the world, and that is how we create a world that works for everyone. True freedom has nothing to do with the outside world. True freedom is not political, nor is it economic. True freedom is spiritual, and there is something within us that is indestructible, immortal, and eternal. It was there within us when we arrived on the planet at our birth, and it will be with us after our death, because it is us. It is our essential being, that spark of the divine within us. To know this is to be free. Free from all prisons of the body, all prisons of the mind, all of the prisons that exist outside of that, outside of us. To know who we are and to authentically be that. As we let go of our false self, the conditioned self, the domesticated self, and find ourselves deeply grounded in our highest self, our self with a capital S, we suddenly discover a sky that is limitless, with no barriers and absolutely no boundaries. Some call this moksha. Moksha. Moksha means total freedom. Freedom without anything binding us. Freedom free from all things that are false. Freedom from all things that are ultimately going to die. The only truth, the only real freedom is anchored in that which is eternal, that spark within us. The bottom line is that no matter what our understanding of freedom is, we are free. We are free. It is not a question of freedom from or a freedom to be able to do something. It's not a question of time or of gradually becoming. We are already free. And our awareness of that, our awareness of the fact that we are already free, our inherent freedom, is the only real freedom that there is. This is the call of our soul. Let's listen to it. And so it is. And so it is. I invite everyone to turn within for a moment of prayer, closing our outer eyes and turning our attention away from the world of form, away from that conditioned world, that domesticated world, and allowing our attention to turn to the center of our being, the core of us, that spark of the divine, that space and place that I call God. I know that is an integral part of me. I know that I can never be separate from it. That the very essence of it, the love, the peace, the joy, the creativity, the wisdom, the abundance, and yes, the freedom that is the very presence of God itself is who and what I am. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is absolutely true to each and every one listening to this service this morning, each and every person who will listen to it later, each and every person, sentient being actually on the planet. We are all divine emanations of the One. Ambassadors of the presence of God, places where God shows up. And it is from that place of power, that place of freedom, that I speak these words for each of us this morning, individually and collectively, as the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, knowing truly who we are as spiritual beings is the very essence of freedom. While it may feel like we need to have freedom from something or the freedom to do something in order to feel free, it is not the truth. The truth is that we are freedom right here and right now. It is a God quality that we arrived on the planet with, and that it is and always has been our choice, within our ability, within our purview to choose it. No matter if we are in a prison cell or in some other way physically imprisoned, we can choose, like Viktor Frankl, to experience it differently, allowing ourselves to transcend it, to rise above it, and perhaps ultimately to absolutely know the truth, and knowing that truth, then, as Osho said, the universe brings it forward, creates it in our life in form. And so I claim ease and grace around claiming our freedom, bringing it forward into our lives in really powerful ways by authentically being ourselves, by being true to our true nature and sharing it with others, and accepting and honoring who others share with us, knowing that truly this is the only way to experience freedom, the only way to really create a world that works for everyone. It is all within our capacity to do so. And so I claim ease and grace for us individually and collectively to know the truth and to bring it forward. So grateful for the freedom I know that is present. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation. And I invite everyone to anchor these words for themselves and for each other, for our community and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is. So it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It is now the time for our conscious giving. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is sustained by the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. This is the time every week when we offer financial support to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and love for ourselves and others. Together, we affirm the truth that today's offering lifts this spiritual community, prospers the one giving, and contributes to the experience of sufficiency in the world. Please place your hand on your heart with your gift or an intention, and we will say our offering affirmation together. We'll do it as a call and response, and I welcome the lovely Heather Abbott, who will be representing the community. Welcome, Heather. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life.
I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life.
I give with gratitude, knowing God is my source.
I give with gratitude, knowing God is my source.
And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you all so very much for all of your gifts of your time, your talent, and your treasure. We could not be the community we are without each and every single one of us. Now, please join me in welcoming back the amazingly talented Cindi Johnson.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dusty, and I enjoyed your talk today.
decisions, and it's an altogether common thing to fail. But as I surveyed my current situation, I decided to just go ahead and sail. There is no one way, there is no foolproof plan, no faithful final chance. I just wake up each day and do the best that I can, and when I hear the music, dance. I confess I get confused quite often. Seems sometimes I hardly ever get it right. But I think that life's about just facing fear and trying. So I point my little boat toward the light. There is no one way, there is no foolproof plan, no fateful final chance. We just get up every day and do the best that we can, and when we hear the music, dance. So whatever you're facing, just remember this: that control you've been craving cannot be. Just take a long, deep breath and surrender it. You'll be all right. You'll see. There is no one way, there is no foolproof plan, fateful final chance. I just wake up each day and do the best that I can, and when I hear the music, dance. You just wake up each day and do the best that you can, and when you hear the music, dance.
Wow, Cindy, another fabulous song, and it really, really does make me want to listen for the music. Thank you. And now a couple of announcements. If anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the homepage, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all of the ministers and the practitioners, and we will pray for you. Next, please join us for our Let's Stay Connected immediately following the service on Zoom. The link is in the Wednesday newsletter that came to you via email. And it is with tremendous excitement that I share with you some wonderful news. We are coming back together as a community in person on Sunday, July 11th. Through the grace of divine right action and the loving generosity of a beautiful angel, Desi Slava Nikolova, we will be meeting at our regular meditation and service times at Sophie's Grill and Bar in Cary, North Carolina. The address is 2734 NC 55, Cary, North Carolina, 27519. I'm going to repeat that. Sophie's Grill and Bar in Cary, North Carolina, 2734 NC 55. While we're coming back to live services, we will continue to stream to both Facebook Live and YouTube. In this moment, we will only be meeting in person on Sundays. Our Wednesday services and our classes will continue to be facilitated on Zoom. Please know that this is just the beginning of our return. We'll be adding more in-person activities such as game nights, picnics, bingo, and other events, and we'll let you know as soon as we create them. With the CDC and the state of North Carolina discontinuing many COVID-19 restrictions, our community will also be loosening our restrictions. There'll be no temperature taking, no masks for those who have been vaccinated, and no distancing requirements. We will continue, however, to strongly encourage those who've not yet been vaccinated for COVID-19 to continue wearing masks while visiting. We invite you and encourage you to join us as we embark on this new journey. Whether you join us in person or you tune into our live stream, we will see you at 10:15 for meditation and 10:45 for our celebration service on Sunday. On Wednesday evenings during the month of June, we've been taking a deeper dive into the book of Soul by Mark Nepo. In honor of the theme that we are hosting, in honor of our theme, we are hosting a special screening of the Disney Pixar movie called Soul. This movie is about a man named Joe Gardner. Joe Gardner is a middle school band teacher with a love for jazz music. After a successful gig at the Half Note Club, he suddenly gets into an accident that separates his soul from his body, and he's transported to the great before, the place where all souls go before being either reincarnated as newborn babies or transported to the great beyond. Joe must enlist help from the other souls in training in order to get back to the land of living before he dies. Join us at the Lodge at Crossroads on Wednesday, June 30th. The evening will begin at 7 and end by 9:30 at the latest. The address is 200 Brisbane Woods Way, Cary, North Carolina, 27518. God, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, in the comfort of your own home, please stand for our June affirmation. This is a call and response. Please say it with meaning and repeat after me. Heather will join us representing the community. I am what the world has been waiting for.
I am what the world has been waiting for.
Any challenges I have faced in my life have prepared me for this moment.
Any challenges I have faced in my life have prepared me for this moment.
I embrace pain as an invitation to higher consciousness and deeper love.
I embrace pain as an invitation to higher consciousness and deeper love.
I commit to showing up authentically and choose to live the life of my dreams.
I commit to showing up authentically and choose to live the life of my dreams.
As I choose to live authentically, I inspire others to do the same.
As I choose to live authentically, I inspire others to do the same.
I move forward in my life from a place of love and acceptance.
I move forward in my life from a place of love and acceptance.
I consciously and confidently live my own truth.
I consciously and confidently live my own truth.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thanks, Heather. And now let's turn within one more time. There is but one life. As we unify with this life, we unify with all people, automatically united. From this recognition and unification also comes an energizing of our own consciousness. Today, I know that my spirit is energized and empowered as I recognize the same Spirit of God which is in me that is also in others. Realizing that same magnificent life is in all nature, I know that life responds to me, to all of us. I am one with all that is alive, awake, and aware. There is nothing stagnant, nothing inactive. All is moving forward in divine right order. I realize one presence. I'm grateful for our unity and oneness with the divine, grateful for its power behind our lives, our ideas, and our dreams. We move forward with energy and empowerment, with unity and with love. So it is. Thanks, everybody, for being here this morning.
Hey, everybody. Thank you all so very much. Thank you to all the Hollywood squares, and Mark, wherever you are, thank you all so very much. And just look forward to seeing you in person in a couple of weeks. And have a great week. I love you all. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being with us.
Bye.
Bye.